welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to be looking at applications on the iPad, and for this video we're going to be looking at Photoshop. Is it worth it? How does it compare to the desktop version? I have a 10.2 inch iPad and it's not the Pro, it's just the regular 7th Gen. This is the home screen under the Learning tab in Photoshop, and there's a lot of tutorial videos here on how to do certain things and increase your skills. There is a lot of helpful tools here. I'm going to start with a standard canvas size of, let's do 8 by 10. That's a nice canvas size here. So I'm just going to add the values in here, make sure that the landscape icon is selected, and always keep it at 300 dpi for the best resolution and resizing. Now on the right here there is a toolbar, and there's also one on the left, but on the right you can start with the layers. So the first icon is your layers panel. It's a minimized docket for your layers. Then it goes into more of a expanded view or normal view for your layers here, which is more traditional. And then below that is all your layer properties. Now they do have the full set of blending modes for layers here in the iPad version, and they also of course have that for the desktop version. There's also an opacity slider track above that if you need it. Then there's some options down here for effects and smart filters. Now, unlike the desktop version, the iPad version does not have these yet. They just have the canvas dimensions, but I do hope that they will upgrade this program and include those in it in the near future. Continuing down, you have the Add Layer icon right there in the middle, and then below that is the Hide and Show icon, showcased by the eye. Below that is a clipping mask option, and then a merge layer option or merge down layer option, followed by Gaussian blur and invert layer options. And then you have the rest of your layer options under that expanded 3-dot icon there. On the left toolbar, you have your typical selection tool, and then I'm right now filing through all the brush the brush icon, which is the 4th one down. You have your fill and stroke there as the first icon set. Then you have the brush size, the opacity of color, if you will, and then the softness and or hardness of the brush itself, depending on how clear and how concise you want your brush to be. Then there's other brush settings under that, the icon expansion. You can also do the blend modes for your brushes, which is very nice. They do come with a lot of brushes included. I'm going to skip down here to the bottom icon, which is the photo icon, and I'm going to import a photo here to start a composite. Now for a photo that has a background you don't want, this is going to be a bit different. This third icon here is the Lasso Tool, which I had changed. If you double click on it, it goes into shapes. I chose the rectangle shape. And then once you make your selection, you can invert it, and then you can delete the excess. So it's very simple. It's a little bit more simple, I think, than doing it on the desktop version. Moving on to the background, just to add a color, which is super easy, all you gotta do is choose that paint bucket tool, which is the 6th one down on the left toolbar, and then you can add in your color by clicking on the canvas size. Make sure you have the correct layer selected. If you want to take parts of a photo apart from each other, this is going to be a little bit different and then the desktop version. In this version, you can choose that lasso tool, choose the shape that you would like. I chose the rectangular option. Then I clicked invert under the options docket at the bottom, and then erased everything. Now to see that properly, you need to hide the layer beneath it, because I did do the copy and paste gesture, which is 3 fingers down on the iPad. In the desktop version, I'm just going to duplicate that process because I wanted these two sides of the paper to be separate from each other. On the desktop version, it's a bit different. Once you have selected it, then you copy and paste it to a new layer. There's no gestures, but it's a little bit of a quicker process. And from there, you can also transform the photo pieces and make them larger or smaller. And the transform icon is the 2nd one down on the left toolbar there. Now, there is something interesting that I was able to find here, and that is the gradient option. You just got to double click the paint bucket tool to activate the gradient tool, and then you just click and drag. As far as I can tell, there's only a linear gradient option so far, unlike the multiple options you have on the desktop version, but it is very handy. If you ever just want to adjust it, you just click on the gradient tool, click and drag. I want to add some text boxes here to emphasize some phrases. So this is pretty much similar to how it is on the desktop version. I'm going to choose a text. They have a lot of preloaded fonts in here. That's pretty similar to the desktop version. So I chose Snell Round as my font, just so it can pair nicely with the documents that I have in this piece. For added emphasis, I'm going to take that selection tool and use the square selection tool, and I'm going to fill it with a fill color and change the blend mode of it just to emphasize this word even more. And I think for the blending mode, I landed on color dodge, or color burn. Those are two different things. So color burn I found to be the one that I liked the most, and then you can deselect it. Now in the desktop version of Photoshop, you can just create shape boxes, and it doesn't seem like that's possible here in the iPad version, so you just have to use that shape selection tool. So again, different process, but you get the same effect. As far as creating any kind of effects in the iPad version of Photoshop, since you do not have those effects options on the layers like you do in the desktop version, you have to go about it a different way. So in order to get blurry edges or soft edges, you can either use the brush tool, or like I did, you can use the eraser tool, which is the fifth icon on the left toolbar, and you can erase the edges to make them softer. Going back through, I'm going to be duplicating those rectangular shapes to show emphasis on certain areas of this piece. And don't forget, you can also use that transform tool like I just did, and you can resize and reshape and extend any parts of your piece that you need to. I also used that shape selection tool to create other points of emphasis, especially on these documents here. If you are a history buff, you will know that this is Declaration of Independence, and those small pieces of paper on either end are the Emancipation Proclamation documents. So just like we did with that shape selection tool to create the rectangular colored shapes, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to highlight the text here. And speeding this along, I just used a lot of different shape selections, and I am using a lot of different types of blending modes to make this really stand out. So overall, I think this phone on the iPad is very comparable to the desktop version. This is how everything ended up looking. I was really pleased with it. There's a little learning curve with the ways you have to bring about the effects that you want, but it's not too complicated. So overall, I think it is worth it, and it's definitely one that you should give a try. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Go ahead and like and subscribe if you did like this video, and I will see you all in the next one.